San Diego, California. This is myself at Renell's wedding just before Bert and I were married. This is Bert and I a couple of days after we were married. This also. This is our first baby, Sherry Lee Pilling, and her father. Sherry in her stroller. Sherry just after her first step. Sherry and myself, her mother. Dave and Sherry.
All my life I have loved history. It has always intrigued me. As I look back at my past employment years as a coal miner, I feel an importance to share with you a brief history of myself. In May of 1957, I was discharged from the Navy. Returning to Price, Utah, I had looked for employment. I took a job with Kaiser Steel Corporation, East Carbon, Utah, pulling coke ovens. Later that year, I took a job as a coal miner inside Kaiser Steel No. 2 mine. Because my father worked at this mine, I was given employment. It was here that I learned the hazards of coal mining. This mine was 13 miles underground. While employed here, many miners were killed. My employment at Kaiser Steel ended in 1959 as the mine went on strike. At this location is where the old bathhouse was and where the man trip took all of us miners inside the mine.
In 1959, Bert and I moved to Vernal, Utah. Sherry was 1.5 years old and David was born March 7th, 1960. David. This is Sherry and David. David. David.
My introduction to the Gilsonite mines began as Bernice's father, Arbin Rich, took me to work with him. The location of the mine was west of Bonanza, Utah processing plant. The name of the mine was Little Emma. My first impression of the mine was shocking. Instead of the vein running horizontal, it ran vertical, up and down. And another surprise was the vein was only 3 feet wide, something that I was not used to. Arbin invited me to follow him down into the mine. In order to get into the mine, there was a long, narrow bucket used to lift gilsonite in and out of the shaft. As I and Arbin boarded the bucket and signaled to the hoistman, he lowered us into the mine. After reaching a depth of 200 feet, we entered a vertical area, which is a slope of the mine. This is where Arbin showed me how to mine gilsonite. The vertical slope was on a steep pitch of 60 degrees. Located on the slope was a rope which ran to the surface for safety. Arbin would hold on to the rope with one hand and with the other hand use the air hammer to break the gilsonite. After mining for some time, Arbin needed some wooden blocks. I took hold of the safety rope and pulled myself hand by hand outside of the mine. It was there that I picked up 3 wooden blocks. As I made my way back inside the mine, one of the wooden blocks fell from my arm and started rolling down the slope. I began yelling to Arbin to warn him, but it was too late. The block hit Arbin in the leg. After reaching Arbin, I was sure the block had broken his leg. Though Arbin was injured, he insisted on working. This injury never did get better, but Arbin would never take off work. And for me, I have never forgiven myself. I still feel bad to this day that this happened. Arbin never complained about it. It caused a large lump on his left leg, which never went away. After this sad incident, I went to work for Art Bourne, contractor whom was mining gilsonite at Bonanza, Utah. I ended employment with Art Bourne and moved to Glenwood Springs, Colorado. This monument stands in tribute to the miners of Coal Basin, who confronted adversity and proved themselves resourceful and innovative and intrepid. We honor their achievements and their sacrifices, remembering in particular those brave good men whose lives were lost in the mines. Coal Basin is approximately 4 miles west of this point. It is a 27 square mile basin in which coal seams outcrop at 10,000 feet and 10,500 feet elevation. In the near vertical terrain beneath the Huntsman Ridge, 9 entries were driven into the outcrop, first by Colorado Fuel and Iron Company, which mined approximately 1 million tons of coal from 1900 to 1909, and then by Mid-Continent Resources Incorporated, which mined approximately 28 million tons of coal between 1956 and 1991. Mid-Continent shipped coal to steel mills in Utah, California, Texas, and South Korea. The premium quality and unique properties of the coal were inducement to mining under extremely difficult mining conditions. These included high elevations, steep terrain, heavy snows, and avalanching on the surface. Underground mining progressed on a steep pitch of 13 foot to 15 foot despite gas and outbursting from overburden to the mining problems of Coal Basin. This monument consists of roof support shields designed to withstand the massive overburden pressures of the mine, and also mine fan pedestals, placed with gratitude and respect by the Mid-Continent Coal and Coke Company. From a newspaper published in May of 1967, the Mid-Continent Miner produced a picture of myself and other miners and a description of those miners I worked with. The description is such: 4 South crew, one of our consistent high production crews. Front row, left to right, Bert Pilling, George Kelly, Gilly Harbath. Back row, Shorty Rue, Pete Borich, Bob Weaver, and Dave Stark. From a newspaper, the Mid-Continent Miner, recorded May of 1967, there's an article in the paper which describes myself. This incident occurred while I was working on afternoon shift inside the mine. A miner who was working there, which I cannot remember his name, was complaining that he had a horrible toothache. I commented that I would be glad to remove his tooth. I had my channel locks. The man said yes. I removed my channel locks from the back pocket, reached in his mouth, and pulled his tooth. From that moment on, my name would be recorded as Bert Doc Holliday Pilling. The description is such in the paper as recorded. Bert, a 29-year-old miner, his wife Bernice, and 4 children reside at Glenwood Springs. He has worked for Mid-Continent for 6 years in number 1 and number 2 mines as a miner helper, tail pieceman, shuttle car operator, rock dusting, and now is a joy operator and breaking in on the miner. Bert has 9 years' experience at mining and has come here from Price, Utah. He was also in the Navy for 2 years. Bert's hobbies include riding his motorcycle and doing his dentistry work, pulling teeth with his trusty channel locks. How about that, Doc? A month before this paper came out, A coal seam that we were mining into exploded from extreme pressure within the mine. Pete Borich, a miner operator, was trapped as he ran toward the end of the continuous miner. The entry was filled with coal some 40 feet, leaving a 3-foot opening on top of the coal. As the dust settled down, I looked around and noticed that Pete had not been able to make it to safety. Knowing that Pete may be dead, I had a sinking feeling. I immediately began crawling in on top of the coal, which was difficult because the opening varied from 3 foot to 2 foot in spots. As I finally made my way back to the tail end of the continuous miner, all that was visible was the tailpiece of the continuous miner. Under the tailpiece, which was up against the roof, I noticed coal moving as if being forced upward by someone trying to get air and by trying to exhaust the coal away from their face. I immediately began pulling coal away. It was Pete's face. Pete was totally covered with coal, standing up with his face upwards. If Pete had not made it to the end of the continuous miner, he would have been killed. It took a better part of an hour to free Pete from this scary moment. Sad to say, this type of occurrences would end up killing many miners well after I left the mines. It has been 34 years since I revisited Mid-Continent Coal and Coke Company, Redstone, Colorado. As I took opportunity to reflect upon the 7 years I was employed at this mine, I feel a sadness that so many died during the time I was employed here. It has been 34 years since I revisited Mid-Continent Coal and Coke Company, Redstone, Colorado. As I took opportunity to reflect upon the 7 years I was employed at this mine, I feel a sadness that so many died during the time I was employed here. I tell this story with much gratitude that my life was not taken also. I was on afternoon shift August 27, 1967, that I reported to work that afternoon at the coal mine's bathhouse to change clothing for the day's work inside the mine. After changing clothing, I boarded a crew vehicle which took a twisted 2-mile ride 1,000 feet to the top of Coal Mine Basin. My remembrance of this day stands out very clearly in my mind. The day was very beautiful and warm. I felt also that there was something different about this day. The events that were about to take place, you may say were divine intervention. After arriving at the mine, I was told that my work inside the mine would consist of an extremely dangerous work. I was also told that one of the boss's sons was coming to work and they were going to place him on one of the pieces of equipment that I was assigned to and put me as a miner's helper. At first I was stunned, and then I became angry. As the men began entering the mine, I followed behind. After traveling some distance, we had to cross over a conveyor belt used to transport coal from the mine. As I looked at the conveyor belt, I knew that I needed to hop on the belt and ride it outside and wave down one of the crew vehicles leaving for the bathhouse. I still remember the look on the crew member's face as I hopped on the conveyor belt. My last reply was, "I'll see you guys." After arriving at the bathhouse, I needed a ride to Glenwood Springs. A miner I knew by the name of George Harris gave me a ride. As we traveled to Glenwood, George kept commenting that I would not quit Mid-Continent. I was a miner and that's all I knew. My comment was, "I'm not coming back." George's comment was, "Oh yes you will." Little did I know that George would be killed later on as he took the position I had. Leaving Mid-Continent and Coal and Company has truly been a blessing. Little did I know that if I had not listened to the Spirit, I would not be here to enjoy the life that I have.
This is Melinda. Lorraine, born September the 21st, 1964, with her sister Sherry and her brother David. This is Melinda after she learnt to walk. This is Timothy, born April the 15th, 1964. This is our 4 children, Sherry, David, Melinda, and Timothy, and their dad, Bert.